Wow, everybody, we've somehow combined our Barbie and Oppenheimer review into one unique video.
We should call it Oppenby. We get that trending, I think.
Definitely.
Oppenby?
It's probably already trending.
Yeah, I think so.
You've said it and it's happened.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I agree.
There's no more perfect way to combine those names together.
Exactly.
In a fun little hashtag trending kind of way, you know?
Leaving a like might help, but also people might want to know that, hey, I just want to hear Barbie. Well, there's a time code below, or Oppenheimer. There's also a time code below. That's the first one. That's right. Easier to find. If you're interested in any particular movie.
That's right.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
This is from our podcast. Check it out if you want. So here we go, Mason. On a budget of $100 million. Money well spent, I feel. Well, Christopher Nolan has talked about how, like, if there's any CGI in this, I will throw you off a bridge.
That's right.
Yeah. Though you see him in interviews, he's having fun, isn't he?
He seems to be having fun. There's a very fun, speaking of autocomplete interviews, there's a Robert Downey Jr.,
he's been a
Christopher
goof.
Nolan.
He's in the chair the wrong way at one point.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr., not
He would
Christopher
never.
Nolan, he would
There's
never.
only one way to sit in a chair,
yeah.
and it's 1 foot over the knee.
Also, very wise call getting Robert Downey Jr. and not Cillian Murphy in that role. I know.
Yeah.
Although Cillian Murphy some years ago did a very good iconic roles video where he went through all his, 28 Days Later and Peaky Blinders and so forth. And that was very nice and insightful, but it wasn't wacky.
No, he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Anyways, budget of $100 million at the box office on its US opening weekend. It's going to make around $77 million and also $90 million internationally. It's going to bring in around $165 million. Now, I just want to point out, this is second to Barbie in like a long way, but this is a big deal. It's good numbers considering it's a really long runtime. It's got a very specific audience. And
it is twice the runtime of Barbie.
Twice the runtime. Barbie's about 2 hours, so it's about an hour longer than that. It skews probably a bit older, and that's also like the rating of that alone. So it's interesting that a movie like this can be so big. And it's also interesting that when you look at the movies that have done well this year, when you look at Guardians, when you look at Spider-Verse, when you look at this, when you look at Barbie, it's almost as if you bring in people with a specific creative vision and you allow them to make a version of something they're passionate about.
Yeah, that's true.
And you pay them properly.
Yeah.
The result of that might be a thing that then brings you more money to the studio. It's just something to think about.
Sure.
That's to anybody. I'm just throwing that out there to the universe.
Yeah, what was I going to say? Also, for $100 million, that's a bargain when you factor in just star power alone.
Who's in it?
In this movie. Everybody's in this
We're
movie.
going to rattle that off.
Yeah.
But I don't want you to miss out on telling us what you think the story was.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Let's do a wacky take on the development of the atomic bomb. Here we go. Bit of fun.
Yeah.
Let's have a bit of a muck about.
Did you like the bit where he turned back to the guy who made him make the atomic bomb, Matt Damon, after it went off, and he went, "Big enough for you, bitch"?
That's right.
What did you think about that
I
bit?
loved that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was very
They've taken
cool.
some creative liberties there.
Yeah, that's right.
He didn't call him a bitch in the original
That's right.
real life thing.
He said something racist because that would have been the style at the
That
time.
was the time, yeah. Anyway, go on.
Oh, anyway, okay. So this is based on a book. It's a biography of one J. Robert Oppenheimer, the creator of the atomic bomb, or the man behind the development of it, I should say, and his various escapades and being a rotten bloke.
Yeah.
And just
the conflict.
Yeah. And it's I think it's a very compelling watch.
It is.
3 hours.
Now, Robert Downey Jr. called it the best movie that he's ever been in.
Wow.
Is he a liar?
Well,
I think it's one of his best performances.
Yeah, I mean, in Dolittle, he pulls a set of bagpipes out of the butt of a dragon.
Yeah, but you got to think about this. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, but what I think is interesting about Oppenheimer is he pulls an even bigger set of bagpipes out of an even bigger
And he goes,
dragon.
"Big enough for you, bitch." But he doesn't say bitch.
That's right.
He says something racist, Mason.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, what's interesting about this movie is I also found it super compelling, and I've seen a criticism of this, and also I think this can also be taken as a credit to the construction of this, and the way that Christopher Nolan has put together this story is that a lot of this is just men sitting in rooms just asking each other questions. It's just that.
Nothing happens in this. I mean, I say nothing happens in this movie. 2 cities are reduced to rubble by atomic bombs.
Yes.
But you never see that, and there is no action in this movie. There's not even a scene where 2 scientists get up to scuffle over disagreements over science, and Oppenheimer's like, "Gentlemen, stop. There's no time for scuffling. It's time to do a big science." Hitler's scientists probably aren't doing a big scuffle.
I reckon they would be.
Gentlemen.
I reckon they would be,
He wouldn't say gentlemen, though.
No. He would say bitch.
Yeah, that's right.
So, no, I found this... I really enjoyed this. I mean, when it ended and I left, I was like, oh, I feel bad.
Right.
But not in a way that like, wow, what a terrible movie. But in like, wow, that made me think about a lot of things, and I will continue to think about that probably for a long time afterwards.
Yeah.
Just it really does stick with you. And I just think, isn't it nice when movies are just about things, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
The movie that I would liken this most to that I've seen recently is Tar, which is the Todd Field movie starring Cate Blanchett, where she plays just a rotten person. Like, she's not the worst person in the world, but she is certainly not good by any stretch of the imagination. And
she's stuck in that tar pit. That would make anybody cranky.
Right. I'm trying to conduct a symphony here. But it's just about a very complicated individual and some choices that he made. And I mean, some experts would certainly need to weigh in, but I get the impression that the portrayal of Oppenheimer in this is for the most part quite accurate.
Yeah.
But it's the Christopher Nolan, the method of creating this movie means that some aspects of his life are very heavily emphasized and some aren't. So this movie, like some other Christopher, we were wondering, but before this movie came out, what is the Chris Nolan-ness of this movie going to be?
Yeah.
What element of time bending or
does Bane show up?
Does Bane show up exactly?
Yeah,
you know, and he does.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that's right. Because he's Mexican and it's set in Los Alamos.
Exactly.
So,
it's a prequel to The Dark Knight Rises.
That's exactly right. But the way they do that is this movie is set in at least a couple of distinct time periods. It's set in the years leading up to World War II, World War II, and the immediate aftermath. Yep. And then
it's probably broken three ways.
Yeah,
that's fairly even. But then there's another element to
it.
And
then there's a time period like a decade-ish later where his and it's set in the 50s during kind of the time of the House Un-American Activities Commission.
Yeah,
and
I didn't know any of that was going to be in this. By the way,
no, neither did I.
I had no idea.
And at this point, Oppenheimer's security clearance with the American government is under review.
Yeah,
and in addition, another person related to him is eyeing a sort of very important position within the government, and they're being questioned.
Yeah,
and
in relation to him.
And so there's that whole segment. But also, some of the movie is in color and some of it's in black and white. And I got an inkling during the movie. I'm like, okay, and this is like Memento.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what I think is happening is that the stuff in black and white is what is either a matter of public record or what is generally considered to be like by most people as to what actually happened, whereas the stuff in color is from Oppenheimer's perspective.
That's what I thought it was initially, until the black and white part. It's revealed at the end that it's, I guess this is a spoiler, so I won't say exactly what it is, but it is from a very specific person's perspective. That's how I interpret it anyway. I've found that
which is all to say that my point earlier was that, you know, there are elements to this where you might question, okay, well, why didn't we see this?
Yeah.
Or this sort of sprang up out of nowhere, or we never consider this particular group of people, or we never consider, you know, what these actions had on other certain people.
Yeah.
And the answer is because these are from Oppenheimer's perspective, and he just didn't think about it.
No, exactly. Yeah. Or he starts to think about it after the thing happens.
Yeah, right.
You know, but by then it's kind of he's in a different point in his life, and I think it's a really interesting perspective, and because I think it's more effective the way that they keep it like mostly centered around him. So when you hear about the bombs going off in Japan, you see there is not a Japanese person in this movie. Like that perspective is not looked at all. And I think that works very well from because he gets to distance himself from that, and so do the people associated with the bomb for a time.
Yes.
Until they start to think about what does this mean in relation to what we have done here, and what does that mean for the world going forward?
For so much of it, it is sort of abstract. It's we're firing this stuff up in the particle accelerator and we're creating the plutonium and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, they would in that time, they just heard about it on the radio or in the paper. And then you see all these people react. Some people are immediately struck with what they've done, and some people are, you know, they just are like, well, it's just numbers. It's just numbers.
And some people are just over the moon. Yeah. I thought it was really interesting, and I didn't think it was ever going to go this way, where they didn't make him like an ADHD, autistic, like fast-talking genius who like...
A beautiful mind.
Yeah, a beautiful mind. He doesn't understand social cues. And I never thought it was going to go that way, but it was nice to see a man portrayed in this way.
A womanizer. It was nice to see that,
that's
James.
what I mean. Like, he's a dog. He's conflicted and he's complicated and he does have his good qualities, but... He's also wrong a lot about the area that he's in. So he's overseeing...
He pronounces it nuclear, for example.
Like he's overseeing the building of the bomb. Yeah. But there are multiple times in this movie where he has a hypothesis or an idea, he throws down an idea and he's wrong. And he'll take the idea of somebody else. It very clearly goes out of its way to show that he is the developer of this, but it's not a singular mind behind this. And I think it very easily could have been like, this is the guy who did it on its own, but it is like, it's literally decades of him meeting people and interacting with people and experimenting and working in conjunction with others that made this thing happen.
Cheating on his wife.
And cheating on his wife multiple times that kind of got them to this point. And I thought that was really interesting where they're kind of barreling towards this inevitability. Because you know what happens in real life. And you know what becomes of the world afterwards.
Yeah.
And for a lot of this, it's kind of this triumphant thing that they're moving towards and they're racing against the clock because they're pretty sure Germany's also developing a bomb at the same. And then it gets to the point where Germany, they retire. They step out of the war, Mason.
Oh, sure.
And then they just decide to go, I guess we have to use this anyway. And it's just like, I just found it really
I think we'll have
complicated in a really fascinating way.
Spoilers, but I think, people... We'll talk about how do you display evil on screen. Yeah. And there's some elements in this, just some, it's not about, we don't see Oppenheimer with, devil horns and, a wall of fire behind it, but there are some lines of dialogue from characters in this movie where you go, oh, this is just not Oppenheimer necessarily, but just a character where you go, oh, you're a monster.
Yeah.
And here's just a casual phrase you'll say, and you go, oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
You are callous and unfeeling, and you're gonna blow a city up.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the actual explosion in itself? Because I thought that was going to be like one of the most compelling elements of this movie. But for me, and look, to be fair, I didn't see this on IMAX. The way they've hidden how they've done this, right?
Yes,
They've done it practically, and they've cut together a lot of different elements of the explosion. We don't know the specifics, but basically they've taken like IMAX footage of a miniaturized like event happening and cut it together with larger explosions.
Right.
And we don't really know, and different kind of things happening and weaving that in with people reacting to the nuclear test.
Right, okay.
And sitting in the cinemas, it kind of disorientated me because I'm like, I'm not sure what exactly I'm looking at, how big this is supposed to be. But what I thought was interesting is that's supposed to be intentional. You're supposed to be confused by the scale of what you're looking at.
Yeah, right.
As I guess if you saw that for the first time, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what is happening.
Right. Oh, you're right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't think anything about this movie was done accidentally.
No,
exactly. Any choice in this, whether something was included or excluded or whatever, it's like, well, Nolan, he did that on purpose. And I think there's some interviews where Nolan was like, this is gonna. It's implied that like the explosion is gonna like you're gonna feel it.
Yeah.
And I think he just lied about that. I think that was maybe like a get bumps in seats situation.
Yeah.
I definitely went out of this, with a lot of thoughts.
But I wasn't thinking about that.
No, that's right. I mean, the moment that I felt was most affecting was I think probably post that, where Oppenheimer is in a room with all the
people who work with him,
the Los Alamos team, and everybody's cheering and everyth's stamping their feet, and everything's like that. That was way more because it's like everybody's like rapturous with victory, and they've done this, and he
looks like he's gonna die.
He looks like he's gonna die, and you just see him sort of just looking around, and it feels like a man having a panic attack.
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting because as opposed to seeing like the gore, and I know there's been some clips that goes around that gone around this week, and there's a particular animation, I can't remember the name of it, but you've probably seen the clip. It's an anime, and you see the nuclear blast, and it's just like eviscerating people and children, their eyeballs like melting out of their sockets, and there's none of that in this.
I thought you were talking about that end of the world Flash animation. Remember from like the early 2000s?
Sure, yes, it's very similar to
Fly
that.
the missiles, but I am tired. You know that one?
Yeah, that haven't happened. They're fighting missiles. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
But the horror of it is moments like that. And there's like split seconds where he's looking at a woman and it looks like her skin is kind of shedding off her face or whatever. But that's that's really the extent of it. It's just like light and noise, and you're disorientated, and he looks like he's gonna vomit, and that's the the horrendous element of it. And I think that was very effective.
Yes,
I found. Yeah. You know, I thought was interesting.
What's that?
There's some pretty humorous lines in this.
Yes,
often just very dark though. At the same time, just like an absolute, like this farcical kind of like indifference.
Yeah,
at
I mean,
times.
Nolan doesn't get enough credit for being funny.
Pretty funny,
He's
yeah.
funny. I mean, there's, if you think back on almost any of his movies, there are just some dry, funny lines.
Yeah, Michael Caine.
Yeah,
sure. You know? There's a bit in the trailer where Matt Damon's like, this is the most important thing to happen in the history of the world. And I remember seeing that being like, settle down, calm down. But within the movie, that's a funny scene because there's a scientist and he's like, oh, I don't know, why should I help build the bomb? And he's like, I don't fucking know. Maybe it's the most important thing that will ever happen.
Yeah.
Maybe. And it's kind of played like he's just giving this guy an absolute, just getting into it.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny.
Should we talk about the cast? I mean, Cillian Murphy's amazing in this. Just to portray
so
this character
good.
over a number of decades, with like minimal changes to hair and makeup, running the gamut of kind of
big suits, big high-waisted pants.
That's right. Ooh, skinny waist.
I was like, that's how my grandpa dressed,
right?
Till the day he died.
But just like, he runs the gamut from like, just kind of earnest and just a young buck who thinks he's, just eaten a bit.
It's interesting because at the start, like he's having these visions of like things he can't quite understand, and he's contemplating the universe, and it's when he starts, he's clearly like falling apart, and then when he starts talking to people about mathematics and physics and all these kinds of things, what kind of gets his mind, because he's clearly this brilliant mind, a beautiful mind, if you will.
Oh, absolutely.
And you see him kind of come into himself from working through the work that he does, but then how that then unravels him on the other end.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Oh, I don't know. Just that's the performance, because it's almost all from his perspective.
Yeah,
he's in almost every scene.
Yeah,
and just
Oscar noms, would you say?
Oh, love it. Give him an Oscar nom. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But I mean, he's got a lot of competition in this movie because there's just so many great. Robert Downey Jr. is great in this.
He's very good.
He's remembered how to act.
He certainly has. Well, he talk about how like I did Iron Man for 14 years or whatever it was.
That's right.
He's like, I didn't know if I could actually do this. I saw an interview with him, and maybe it's the same one that you saw, where he's talking about like the character that he is in Iron Man is very fast talking and whatever, and he's and he's very kind of upfront about who he is. But the guy that he plays in this, his charisma is only really used for political gain. And when he's behind closed doors, he's just like you seem like switch it off.
Yeah, right.
Florence Pugh was great.
Alden Ehrenreich.
Alden Ehrenreich's really good.
Almost all of his scenes are with Robert Downey Jr. And he's sort of
my God, it's Iron Man and Han Solo. That's what I kept saying.
That's right. What's Han Solo going to say to what Iron Man just said? You said. But yeah, like he's toe-to-toe with Robert Downey Jr.
He was good in Cocaine Bear.
He was good in Cocaine Bear. And he's good in Hail Caesar.
Yep.
And he's even good in Solo.
He is good in Solo.
But, it's just good. It's just good to see that Nolan or his casting director was like, let's give this young man another shot.
Yeah.
This young 40-ish-year-old man. I don't know how old he is. Because he was great in this. I think that was really good.
Emily Blunt, Jack Quaid's in this.
That's right.
Matt Damon, obviously. Rami Malek, David Dastmalchian, who's...
Yeah.
How many incredible movies has that guy been in?
All of them.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of Nolan stuff.
Well, I was going to say he's also a Nolan alum.
Yeah. Dane DeHaan, Josh Hartnett's really good in this.
Yeah, that's right.
Great hair.
So, and again, another guy who, like, he was a young up-and-coming star and he did a bunch of stuff and then he sort of dropped off the radar a bit.
Well, it's interesting because, and I saw an interview with Christopher Nolan recently, but I remember reading like 10 plus years ago that Josh Hartnett said that he was asked to be Batman, Christopher Nolan's Batman, and he turned it down because he's like, I don't know if I want to do this. And he was more interested in the prestige. But what he said he realized at the time was what Christopher Nolan was like kind of saying to him was like, if you do this Batman thing, then this is, like, because Christopher Nolan worked with Bale like multiple times.
That's true, yeah.
We're like, come with me on this journey and we'll kind of do this together. And Josh Hartnett kind of regretted from that perspective because he really wanted to work with Christopher Nolan. And now he has. Yeah. Gary Oldman's in this. Benny Safdie's in it.
Yeah.
Just what's his name? Matthias. What's his name? Schwefhofer. He's the German physicist you meet at the start.
Oh yeah,
he's in Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead.
That's right.
He's a director as well.
Yeah, he's the same director. David Krumholtz is in this. Unrecognizable.
Krumholtz is in it.
So this is the third 10 Things I Hate About You alumni that Christopher Nolan has stolen for his movies.
Heath Ledger.
And someone else.
JGL. Joseph
Gordon-Levitt. Yeah, exactly. That's right. We're probably going to say best movie ever or worst movie ever and then do some spoilers. Yes. But I feel like this isn't a movie you can spoil, really.
For me, I think there were some things in this historically which I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I didn't know. Like, I knew who he was. I knew what he did.
Uh-huh.
But beyond that, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know about the trials. I didn't know about, like, his past and his relation to other political parties, which I thought was handled really interestingly in this. I mean, aside from just the fact that they bring like a nuclear holocaust that like into the world.
Yes, sure.
There is a lot of politics outside of that which plays out.
That's true, yeah.
Which also then ties into things. You know what the funniest part of this movie to me was?
What's that?
After the bomb went off.
Yes.
And there's complete silence as this kind of thing is unfolding, and then you get the noise and the audience is completely silent. Most people are just wrapped up in this. I look in front of me and there's a guy with his phone up to his face just doing Pokemon Go.
Wow, Pokemon Gym near your local cinema. I thought you were going to say he was looking up Robert Oppenheimer on Wikipedia. But
that's the guy.
Oh, this is the guy. This guy's real. This guy's real.
I think also, like, in a worse movie.
Yes.
It doesn't go out of its way to be like, nobody sits down and goes, the nuclear bomb is bad, which it very clearly is. Like, it's a fucking horrible invention, and it should obviously have never happened. It's been nothing but a fucking blight on humanity since it happened. So I think it's interesting the way that they do a lot of wonder and awe in relation to that technology and the persistence, and it is a race because they think that they need to beat the Germans to this. And there is definitely an argument to be made there where if they hadn't have done this, maybe the Germans would have got to it. Well, they didn't know. The Germans weren't as close as they thought they were. And then, of course, it's the idea of, like, did they really need to drop these bombs? Probably not. It turns out in hindsight. But I just think...
Oh, Sean, YouTuber, not a guy
got a great video on that.
Has a great video on
that
the droppings of the bomb,
And, and not only that, where it's like, why would you drop two?
He would be the person, I think, to ask about how accurate this is to...
Yes.
Because he did a lot of research on Oppenheimer before his video. And I think
I'm going to watch that again. Actually,
I think it does. This movie does. I think a pretty good job. If you assume this is from the perspective of Oppenheimer, this does a good job, I think, of exploring his thought process in terms of whether he thought various things were important, or why he did certain things. Like there's an element to this where he is pretty much all for it, and then it's only in the aftermath that he changes his mind about and gets kind of weepy about it, if you will.
Let's talk about that. Let's get into spoilers.
Okay, I'm going to say best movie ever.
I mean, again, I wouldn't say enjoy is the right word.
No, that's true, yeah.
But I thought this was just a terrifically made movie. I think if there's an element I didn't like, I thought maybe the Florence Pugh, like the way that was kind of framed and set up was a bit kind of like
that's probably the first thing I'm going to talk about in spoilers.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, this movie isn't going to win MTV Movie Awards Best Kiss,
or
Best Punch or whatever.
No,
but it's
barely a kiss or a punch in this.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Go on. Do you want to say?
We're in spoilers right now. It's time for big time spoilers.
Hello.
This movie in Australia is rated MA 15+ for sex scenes and suicide.
Yeah.
If you take Florence Pugh's character out, doesn't have any of those things.
No.
Because she's in both of those.
Also, she might have been murdered.
Oh, I didn't know.
Isn't there a frame where you see like a hand like holding her in the tub?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because I think there is. I looked into it briefly, and there is some discussion about.
Oh, right.
Because she's a communist or perceived to be a degenerate or whatever.
Okay, right.
And so because she was close to Oppenheimer. Like there's a character in this played by Casey Affleck.
Oh, there's my second spoiler.
Yeah.
I mean, just if you want to,
a spooky performance.
Just a man of just a threatening menace, and he's in this movie.
That's right. Yeah.
Just that was the shocker.
Yeah.
I heard the voice and I'm like, is Ben Affleck in this?
Yeah.
And then it turned around and I'm like, But boy,
that's not Batman.
Yeah. He's only in one scene and it is very affecting.
Yeah, well, there's a few people like
that.
Not
a great bloke by all
accounts. No, not a great bloke by any standard.
Boy, if you want to put a guy in a movie to just to be really intense and threatening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that certainly works.
And you see him just run rings around Oppenheimer, who's like this genius. I mean, I think is also what I think is interesting about this particular kind of genius is and how most geniuses are. They're not geniuses in all scenarios. Like this guy is really good at being the worst and intimidating.
Yeah.
And so you're not ready for that, are you?
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everybody can be Tony Stark.
Nobody can be Tony Stark.
Or Elon Musk.
Anyway, I loved the reveal because I didn't know this, that Lewis Strauss, played by Robert Downey Jr., like he'd orchestrated the whole kind of the backlash against Oppenheimer and the investigation and looking into his communist like leanings and how it wasn't this big trial open to the public where he would have garnered public support. They just did it in a little room.
Yeah, they just
rinsed him for days on end.
Well, I was going to say as well, like what I think is interesting is when you think about it, the central plot of the last third of the movie, the stakes are really small in a way. Because it's just about whether Oppenheimer can get his security clearance, and if he can't get it, that's embarrassing to him.
Yeah,
and which it leads to the idea of like, well, that's in his mind. This is important to him.
Well, I think it's important from the sense that it's interesting because Oppenheimer apparently never came out and was remorseful for what happened here, but every action that he took after the bomb, was a step in the direction of nuclear disarmament, and also making treaties. And he realized that, well, it's in the movie, that any bomb that they make from, any new bomb they make, and they talk about the hydrogen bomb, they plan to eventually use. These aren't weapons to store.
Right.
These are weapons to test and use on real people. And he becomes aware of that they were never not going to drop this bomb.
Right.
Like whatever the scenario was, they were just itching to drop it. And one of the funniest moments in this, and it's very morose, is when, I'm thinking you alluded to it before, where one of the generals is talking about where to drop it, played by James Remar.
That's right.
And he's like, let's not drop it on Kyoto because I honeymooned there and it's really nice.
Yeah, that's right.
so it's
like hundreds of
just people saved because this guy went there one time.
That's exactly right.
Just wild.
But he's like, and that's the thing, like this banality of evil of just like, well, hundreds of thousands of people have got to die.
Yeah.
But not these ones, because I thought it
was nice.
It was nice there, so it can't be
that one. I went there 20 years ago,
yeah.
I thought also, apparently this meeting happened where he meets with Harry S. Truman, the current president. Not current president, the president then.
That's right.
And Oppenheimer comes in and he's like...
Current president is Bill Clinton.
That's
He's playing his saxophone.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
And Oppenheimer's like, he talks about having blood on his hands, and Truman's just like, get this fucking loser out of here.
Yeah, right.
Get this sad sack out of here. And there's a moment where he's like, what do we do with this facility that we built or whatever? And he's like, give it back to the Indians. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, I think it's really interesting that I think the way that he conducts himself, and Oppenheimer puts on this persona in public, and he's like joshing in hearings, and he's kind of this public hero for this thing that he did. He stopped the war and whatever. But the hearing that he put himself through, and he didn't really defend himself, it is this kind of like self-flagellation because he knows that he did a fucking awful thing.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And even if it was for a greater good, because we don't really know the outcome of what would have happened if it wasn't. Maybe something worse would have happened. Yeah. Maybe something probably better happened. It seems like he put himself through a lot of this stuff because he fucking hates himself.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, maybe. And I was also going to say, like, I think one of the criticisms of this movie I saw was that when they built Los Alamos, the testing facility and the development facility, they displaced like a bunch of Mexican people who lived there and what have you, and that's not in the movie at all. Yeah. But I think, again, that's because if you're watching this from the perspective of Oppenheimer, he didn't think about it.
Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah, I know this place. It's nice.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And we can just build it here, this place that I like.
Yeah.
And now it's like a permanent like army facility or whatever. So Einstein's in this as well.
That's right.
There's a nice little...
Does it take you out of the movie? Because it's Einstein?
A little bit.
Yeah, initially
I got
it does,
used
I
to
think.
it,
yeah.
So there's this kind of overarching mystery.
Right.
Where you see Oppenheimer talk to Einstein.
And then talk to Strauss.
Then talk
Robert
to
Downey
Strauss.
Jr.'s character. And Strauss is adamant that Einstein doesn't like him because of something Oppenheimer said.
And he said it by the lake on this particular day.
Yeah.
Where he was basically lining up Oppenheimer to just get him publicly eviscerated.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, it's just revealed that the conversation they have, they're not even thinking about Strauss. Like Strauss is so wrapped up in his own political ambitions that it's not about you, man.
That's right. I think it's a credit to this movie that it has a compelling narrative and it has kind of that mystery to it, that layers and the reveals, given that life often isn't like that, and there often isn't, you get to the end and you go, oh, the that thing that I was always thinking about it. The reveal is here, and now it's very satisfying kind of thing.
But just a very ominous reveal. I guess if we could talk about it. Whereas, there was a threat. There was a small chance that if they set off a bomb, it would ignite the atmosphere and everybody would die. And so it doesn't happen.
Yeah, so that was
which is good.
Because again, they were working in completely uncharted territory, and a nuclear explosion is based on atoms reacting to one another. One atom being
one link in a chain reaction.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote that song,
John Farnham.
There we go. Love that guy. Yeah, and the fear, there was a small chance that reaction would never stop once it was started, and the atmosphere would ignite, and we would all die.
Yeah, but it didn't.
Yeah,
and we're all right. But
are we?
But are we? So the final line is like, when he's speaking to Einstein, you find out that he's like, well, actually, it feels like there really is something set in motion where we're going to destroy each other with nuclear weapons or whatever. And then you see the world. You see
what might be a bunch of missiles launching, and the world being consumed by fire. Yeah,
and then it ends.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh no, I hope there's a post credits.
Exactly right. Yeah.
But just really ominous.
Come join the Avengers. Wait, are you Strauss? No, I'm Iron Man.
Whoa.
I've switched my acting off. That's how you can tell I'm Iron Man.
He's also a very good Iron Man.
He is, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, like the idea that...
God.
I mean, I don't like this idea, but I think it is compelling, There's a small chance that the world ended when we're all in hell right now,
Oh, wow.
Just a small chance.
I didn't think that's what they were talking about.
I thought that's exactly what
I thought he was saying it's going to be an inevitability.
Oh,
where like this will happen.
No, I thought it was they were all in hell. No, I don't know. You kid.
I thought it was like the chain reaction of bringing nuclear weapons into the world.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Or the hell thing.
Yeah.
Do you want some reviews here from some people who've written in?
Yes, I would. Also, just one thought I had was right at the start of the movie, and I think it sets a real tone. He's just about to murder one of his professors.
Yeah.
He's just poisoned that dude's apple.
Nearly killed Kenneth Branagh.
That's right.
Of all people.
My goodness,
yeah.
That guy can do it all. He can be a bad billionaire in Tenet.
Yep.
He'd be a nice fella.
He could be a guy in Dunkirk.
That's right.
He was a real guy also. I should watch Dunkirk again.
Yeah.
I think I was really tired when I watched it.
Okay.
All right, this is from Nate, who says, just saw Oppenheimer in IMAX, and now I am become deaf.
Oh,
because it would have been very loud.
Very loud. You know what? I appreciate it. I don't know if Nolan...
Talking about the audio?
Yes. I don't know if Nolan listened or he just decided to go a different way.
Or he decided to listen.
Yeah, maybe he decided to listen.
To his movies.
Yes, that's right. It was nice that I could hear all the dialogue.
Yeah.
Because my God, if I couldn't hear... If the audio mix was the same in this movie as it was in Tenet, I would have left, I think.
Well, so much of this, it hinges on the dialogue. I mean, it's just dialogue, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And there were even moments in this where they name somebody and I'm like, it takes me a second, I'm like, who are they talking about?
Right.
And you have to fucking lock into it, you know? But I think to this film's credit, it's structured so bizarrely. But I think him doing that 4 years and maybe not getting it right every time, I know for a lot of people, including me, I didn't love Tenet. It was confusing to the point where no, I understand this all works, but I don't care to follow any of this.
Right, okay.
I don't care if they're running backwards down a mountain while a building explodes upwards or whatever. I don't care.
That's my jam, James.
This is from Raccoon Waymond, who says, things I didn't know. Oppenheimer was a bit of a root rat.
He sure was.
Looking forward to hearing the Weekly Planet boys talk about Oppenheimer.
And his root rattedness.
Yeah. There's a moment where you find out during it, he's having multiple affairs.
Yeah, but one of them is just like, he was having an affair with this woman.
Yeah, whose husband died. And he's just like, yeah.
Again, from his perspective, he just had that affair and he didn't think about it.
Didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And Xavier Stewart says, Oppenheimer is long, good, Oscar good, but just too long. So yeah, fair enough.
Do you think this is going to win a bunch of awards?
Yes, it should.
Yeah.
Also, I don't care.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow, now let's talk about a different movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Barbie. On a budget of $145 million. This box office, this is very interesting. It has the biggest US opening day of the year at $70 million.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a $150 million US opening weekend. And that's going to be about $300 million worldwide.
That's huge.
It's the biggest movie of the year so far. I know obviously that will change in the next few weeks, depending how audiences, whether they carry it or not. I think the biggest movie of the year at the moment is Mario, but big brands are having a big time this
this
year.
might be this might be just a huge opening weekend.
Yeah.
And everybody had a big party time and they all dressed in pink and they went to the cinemas and and maybe it'll drop off. But I think
I think it's going to have legs. Yeah,
yeah. I read, and I don't know if this is accurate. This is up there with in terms of opening weekends. This is up there with Ms. Marvel and Black Panther.
Yes,
in terms of just like huge openings.
Yeah.
So if you take superhero movies out of the equation, this is one of the biggest.
I think it's really interesting that at the moment, I think we're in like a transitional period between a certain type of superhero movies and Disney live action remakes.
We're in the end game now.
Yeah.
That's from the
we
movie
were.
Endgame, or
and
maybe
like,
Infinity War.
There was this MCU era, and I think we're now just like, what's next?
Yeah.
Because Marvel movies, they're not doing what they used to do.
That's true.
And now this does $300 million at opening weekend. Big brands forever, I guess.
Big brands.
For a while. Yeah.
Girls' Toys, Atomic Bombs, just two big brands.
My God.
Yeah.
What do you
go on.
think
the
story was?
Oh, all right, Barbie. Barbie
Yep.
lives in Barbie land.
Yep.
She's a Barbie girl. She lives in a Barbie world.
Yeah.
Life's fantastic, something plastic, however the song goes.
Brush your hair, etc.
Yeah. But then...
Yeah.
And she lives with all the other Barbies and Kens and so forth.
And they're all Barbie.
They're all Barbie and
They're all
Ken.
having their own little thing.
And Alan's there also.
Having,
everybody's having a lovely time. But then Barbie's all like, oh, my life is...
I'm having an existential crisis.
I'm having a little existential crisis. Things aren't working as well as they should. And she goes to visit Weird Barbie, and Weird Barbie says, well, it's probably something out in the real world. You got to go visit the real world.
You can get to the real world if you want to, and they can get here also.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And you got to go out and go on a little adventure. And so her and Ken get out there in the real world. Adventure ensues.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And they have a good time and a bad time sometimes.
Oh, wow.
As well.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this.
I enjoyed it too.
What a fun time.
Yeah.
And also,
yes,
it's very funny.
It's very funny. It's not like wall-to-wall gangs.
No, well,
but there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
No, but there's a lot of them, and I think they all land.
Yeah. I don't think there was a single joke where I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, I really all worked for me. So director Greta Gerwig, really good choice for this.
Uh-huh.
Again, you take somebody with a very particular idea, because this movie, like Oppenheimer, they are very different.
Yes.
It's about something in the sense that, like, this is a very specific vision. I think there are so many ways that this movie could have just been dreadful. Or nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's Battleship, or it's, I don't know.
Transformers.
The Emoji Movie.
Right.
It could have been just like, and now there's this Barbie, and now there's this Barbie, and now and also you get that if you want to see different Barbies.
Right,
there's like 100 of them or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But I just think the narrative of this is very funny and interesting.
This reminded me of, and I'm not sure if it's just because Will Ferrell was in it, but it felt to me like Anchorman. Just a stupid premise and a stupid adventure, and everybody's stupid
Everyone's
in it.
so stupid.
And it's just a vehicle for, and it's got some meaning behind it.
Yeah.
And I do not doubt that, for people who grew up on Barbie.
Yeah.
And there's a particular monologue towards the end of it, which I think probably resonates with a lot of people who played with Barbie as kids and grew up in a world that was not like Barbie's world.
Yeah.
I think I think that's really interesting, and I think a lot of people in my showing sort of it resonated with them and they enjoyed that.
But not you.
No, I hated it. No, but it was just, I just felt like it was just, even though I don't know anything about Barbie, and I don't know anything about the characters or how people played with Barbie or what have you, it seemed like just an accurate representation of that, and also just dumb and so it's a dumb smart movie.
It absolutely is.
It was very. Like,
I think the Anchorman, that's a really good comparison.
It felt very kind of sharp, but also just put a bunch of stupid characters in the world and see how they react to that world. I thought that was really interesting. And what was also good?
Yeah.
The trailer doesn't show the entire movie.
No, this went directions that I didn't know, and it's funnier than I thought it was going to be.
Absolutely,
also.
yeah.
I think I've seen people mention like the aesthetic of this it's really interesting, but at the same time, isn't it just Barbie stuff but big? Because everything in the world of Barbie Land, they're real world toys, or I mean like the sets.
Yeah.
As in like in the vehicles, they're things from the toys that they make big. But
and they built them for real.
Yeah.
It's all real. And apparently at one point they ran out of pink.
I don't doubt
California ran out of pink paint or something because they used up all the pink paint.
I think also, like, just being like, it's just the toys but big is selling it short, because doing that, this could look like shit.
Absolutely. And also, that's cool.
Yeah.
So here's two things that are cool. Really small things that have been made really big.
Agreed.
And really big things that have been made really small.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Yeah.
Incredible. I love that sort of stuff.
I think also it balances.
I mean, Ant-Man Quantumania notwithstanding.
Yeah.
Didn't nail that, really.
No, it didn't.
No,
did it?
But otherwise.
I think it also balances the way that different people experience Barbie growing up. Even characters within this movie, they react differently to seeing Barbie in the real world. There is that element of that, like, this is an inspirational character and this is aspirational to me because Barbie to me, and all the Barbies believe this, that they are actually showing women that you can be and do anything. And which is incredible. Like, imagine if you were a pilot or an engineer or president or whatever. But on the flip side of that, a bunch of people are just like, this is fucking unattainable and awful and fake.
And Barbie is like she is Margot Robbie. She is like perfectly thin and tall and blonde. And
I'm none of those things.
And everything she does is effortless and wonderful. And she always has the perfect outfit. And in the real world, everything gets in the way of that. You know, genetics and money and,
the way the world is structured.
The way the world is structured, exactly,
I thought that was really interesting where it does, because I know Claire, who hasn't seen this movie yet, my wife, she's more on that kind of thing as a kid that just like, this isn't my kind of thing. This isn't me, and I don't like it.
Her favourite toy as a child was disgusting grub dolls.
That's right.
They're just like you, was the tagline.
Put them in the mud.
That's right.
Leave them in the mud.
Put them in the mud where you live. Yeah, I mean, so I mean, not to get too deep into the plot without spoilers, but so Barbie and Ken decide to go look in the mechanics of the Barbie world and how.
I love that they just go.
It doesn't really matter. It's not important. It doesn't matter.
No, I don't care that Barbie Land is real and there's also the real world and how do you get in between them. I don't give a shit. I don't need an explanation of different realms and portals and a magic spell and a ghost or whatever.
Because it's Anchorman.
Yeah, exactly.
In Anchorman, there's no need to explain why all the different news teams show up in an alley and fight each other. It's not important.
Exactly.
There's a pre-existing beef we don't have to think about. But so Barbie and Ken go to the real world, and what Barbie discovers, or what they both discover, is that the real world is nothing like that anticipated. But where Barbie finds that is quite confronting, Ken is like,
this is
rad as hell kind of thing, Their expectations.
He gets caught up in the manosphere of it all.
That's exactly right,
which I quite enjoyed. I think, Margot Robbie's great as Barbie, and I think, like, she's funny, but on the back end of this, she's just falling apart. And she does that really well. She does some genuinely, like, really good, like, emotional moments in this, and just up close of her face and like crying and feeling emotion and like experiencing things for the first time and the wonder and the shock of things. Just killed it. Genuinely, really good. And Ryan Gosling is very funny in this as well.
Absolutely, Maybe his funniest thing he's done.
Probably.
Yeah.
He's just very funny. And what I like about, and this will probably be a criticism where all the Kens in this, they're all kind of portrayed as like stupid and vapid, and they're basically in the service of Barbie because that's what Ken the figure is.
Yes.
But I also
because Ken is an afterthought, really.
Yeah.
Girls who had Barbie would have 10 Barbies and maybe a Ken.
But what I feel like, and you mentioned this, where everybody in this movie is a moron.
Yes.
Like, all the Barbies think that what they're doing is definitively good and they've changed the world forever for good, and the real world is fixed, and they are happy with the work that they have done, when it's like the real world is the real world, And I thought that was the dynamic of all that was really interesting.
Yeah, look, we shan't be dwelling on it, but I thought I've seen some reviews that were like, well, this movie's anti-men. And it's not even anti-Ken.
No.
It's just they're having a relatively stakes-free adventure,
And also,
it's not this what happens in this movie, none of it's really anybody's fault.
It's also like,
it's like saying John Wick 4 is anti-men because some of the men in it are bad.
That is anti-men.
That is very anti-men.
But also, like, and this can be said of all movies, it just might not be for you.
Yeah, no,
and I think also, like, this isn't for really little kids.
Right.
Like, I have a 3-year-old daughter. I wouldn't take her to this. I think she'd probably enjoy like the colors of it initially and all of that. But when you get into the back half and it's like weird and existential, and like there's like speeches about the real world and like depression and all these things.
Yeah. And women, expectations of women in the real world.
And I'm not saying that, like, I just think she'd be bored potentially. I might take her at some point, but at the same time, I think if you've got a kid between like maybe 6 or 8 and of whatever gender, I think you could totally take them to this, and I think you'd be selling a kid short to be like, there are elements of this which are too grown up. Because I think maybe there are for some kids, and there's definitely a bunch of stuff that would go over their heads, but I think there's a really interesting discussion to be had about how the real world actually operates here and the way that it's portrayed here.
And I think
kids are smart.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there where you said there's a lot of stuff that goes over their heads.
Yeah.
But like a lot of movies used to do that.
There's a beach off joke.
Yeah, that's right. The Simpsons was built on at least early seasons of The Simpsons was built on. There's stuff for the kids and there's stuff that goes over the kids' heads, and so much of the rewatchability of that sort of stuff was you could rewatch a thing you watched as a kid and go, oh, I get that now.
Masters of the Universe, I get it now.
That's right. He-Man is okay, all right, wow.
I meant the movie, the incredible movie we watched recently.
Right.
Yeah. There's a fight scene in this. Just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's very Anchorman as well, isn't it?
There's a musical number out of nowhere.
God, there's some of the use in... There's a particular
there's two fight sequences.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one on the... Yeah. There's a moment where there's a particular song which the Kens sing.
Yes.
And I just love that choice.
Yeah.
And the way they set it up and the way that they were singing it. And I'm just like, God, this is a good joke.
Yeah.
This is such a fucking
absolutely.
good joke. Yeah. Just absolutely nailed all of this.
Yeah. And look, and again, great supporting cast. Some of which I don't recognize.
Yeah.
Like a number of the Barbies the actors I don't recognize, I don't think.
Yeah.
If you're going to bring up
a list,
But like a lot of the Kens are fun. Simu Liu is fun. And we got Ncuti Gatwa who's the new Doctor Who.
Yep.
We got the guy who's in Secret Invasion currently is the evil Skrull.
That's right.
As one of the Kens.
Yeah. So we got Emma Mackey, Michael Cera mentioned, Kate McKinnon's in it, America Ferrera is in it, Hari Neff, Issa Rae as the president. There's a great joke where they ask the president at the start, they're like, why are you so great? And she's like, no comment. It's just Ariana Greenblatt, who's in 65, is in this.
Oh, yeah, the daughter.
Yeah.
America Ferrera's daughter. Yeah.
Alexandra Shipp's really good in this. That's a spoiler, I won't say that. But just a really good cast, you know?
Yeah.
And a few little cameos.
But
also, like, there's one cameo in this in particular. Should we do spoilers?
Yeah, I'm going to say, not a huge surprise, but I'm going to say best movie ever.
I also think...
A big week for best movies ever. In different ways, and what a delightful time.
I think also, like, if you're probably like, oh, this is, I don't know, Barbie movie, I don't know, is it just man-hating or whatever? It's probably not for you, like, honestly. And maybe just don't see it. And I think that's okay, because not everything...
Wait a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Because the steam will die down from all those videos of people who need content of hating things every week. And then when the smoke is cleared, maybe just watch it on streaming or whatever and see what you think of it.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a week.
What a week.
Anyway, spoilers, big time spoilers for Barbie.
Yep. What are we spoiling here?
Yeah, it's a great point. There's not a ton to spoil.
I mean, John Cena's in it.
John Cena is in it as a mermaid.
You know what that proved to me as well? Like, John Cena pops up and goes, hi. I'm just like, I'm glad this isn't just wall-to-wall fucking celebrity cameos.
Absolutely, yeah.
It just reminded me of like The Flash.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
just like now it's this guy and it's this guy and it's this guy and it's and this movie is. I mean, I guess there are cameos like throughout it, I guess, but it's more like this person plays a role in this or they're in this movie, so I guess it's not a cameo because they're in it for more than one scene.
That's true.
I thought that was like delightful that it didn't hinge on this thing. You know?
Okay, I guess what we can spoil and I mean, there's a lot of plot that isn't in the trailers. So the plot is of course that Barbie and Ken go to the real world. Barbie is sort of shocked at how it's a patriarchy, not a matriarchy, but Ken loves it because he's never encountered this
before. Loves horses.
And he has no identity in Barbie land, but in this place everybody just respects him and I mean,
well, they don't really, but he thinks.
That's right. Yeah. He thinks he gets it like an inherent amount of respect, and then he decides that he is going to pop back to Barbie land really quickly and sort of introduce a patriarchy.
Yeah.
And he can brainwash all the other Barbies because they haven't been as exposed to the real world. So like the Martians in War of the Worlds, they're
exactly. I think do they even use that comparison in this?
Yeah, but like they are vulnerable to this sort of brainwashing, and then so it becomes kind of a Ken-centric world where they've taken over all the Barbie houses. And what song do they play all together?
Push, Matchbox 20.
Matchbox 20.
God,
right.
there's a moment where the radio changes and Push comes on, and then there's just this really kind of Awful's the wrong word because it's not awful. It's a genuinely good, silly rendition of.
Yeah, that's right.
And I never really I know that song, but when you listen to the lyrics and in this context, it's just like the perfect, just like a grubby guy kind of like.
Yeah, right.
Just a self-hating kind of song.
Right. So anyway, so they go back to Barbie Land and all the Kens become part of this Ken
manosphere,
but they don't really understand it.
No, yeah.
And they don't know why they're doing it. And I like that the stakes were not. We know they're all gonna get out of it fine, and everybody's gonna learn a lesson. And like the idea that what the Kens eventually learn is that they've got to get their own interests. Basically, they've got to
develop their own.
They don't have to be just Barbie and Ken.
Yeah,
it's Barbie and Ken and Ken. Right?
Someone gets shot in this.
I think it's shot with an arrow, I think.
Isn't there a moment where one of the board people gets shot in the arm? Is like, there's no guns here, and then he gets shot?
Yeah.
Did that happen?
That did happen, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't think it might have been Will Ferrell. I can't remember. But
yeah. Yeah.
There's a great scene where Alan beats up a bunch of men. I think that's funny. Again, shades of Scott Pilgrim.
And it's really funny also because just before that, they try to build a wall to trap everybody in Barbie Land, but they haven't worked out. They're building a wall like straight up.
Yeah, so it's like 20 feet high, but it's just one brick. Yeah, they're great. Whatever.
I don't know. I think you could say it's a bit on the nose when there's just like a speech about patriarchy and body image and what it means to be a child and aging and all of those things. But I thought that was America Ferrera's in this.
Yes.
And I thought it was just really well delivered, and she's really great in this.
And she was Ugly Betty.
Yeah,
so it hits all the more
It hits home,
you know?
doesn't it? She gets it. Yeah.
I don't know, just fun bits.
Barbie goes to a gynecologist at the end.
Oh, if we're talking great jokes. That's the perfect one to end on.
One that kids go, what?
Yeah, and you,
but that's a joke you can explain to like a kid.
True, yeah.
You can be like, well, that's.
It's a setup to earlier when she said she didn't have a vagina.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I like that because you think she's going to go to a job interview.
Yeah.
And she's going to become a graphic
Because I was like,
designer
what kind of job is this got?
That's right.
Architect or whatever?
Yeah.
And it's, Oh,
Good
man.
stuff.
Do you reckon there's going to be second Barbie? They'd have to be after this, right?
I mean, financially, I think they'd have to be second Barbie. But what do you put in
second Barbie?
Second Barbie? I don't know.
Well, they've talked...
It's up to Greta Gerwig, isn't it?
That's right.
And Noah Margot Robbie.
And Noah Baumbach.
Baumbach.
Yeah. I think they're talking about a Ken spin-off or whatever.
Okay.
So, Anyway, it seems hard to be that buff. But,
would be, wouldn't it?
God, he was shirtless the whole time, pretty much.
Right, yeah. Because
it's a young man's game as well. He's in his 40s, so, But got some reviews here.
Okay.
This one's from Ryan Hunt, who says, just got out of Barbie. Enjoyable performances all around, but missed the mark on the ending by a long shot. Benson Maid said, I'm in Chicago, baby. Still made time for Barbie, then Oppenheimer, though, and pleased I did. Left me questioning everything about being a man in this world and what beautiful things I may have destroyed in pursuit of my dreams. Everyone else went about their day. And Vinton says, I think everyone should see the Barbie movie because there's something for everyone to learn about the world, people, and themselves. So there you go.
I agree. Yeah. Again, I think if you like Anchorman,
it's fun. It's funnier than Anchorman 2.
I think, I don't know if I've seen Anchorman 2.
Ooh, do you think I'm going to get some comments?
I think you're going to get some comments, my friend. I think
you should rewatch Anchorman 2 before you make a comment, by the way. Like, rewatch it now.
Yeah, right now.
Wow, good week for 2 movies.
Good week for 2 movies.
And this counter-programming, Hollywood is going to try and replicate this.
Yes.
I don't think these two together, it cannot be done.
I don't think it can either.
They often try to jump on a trend, after Titanic, they're like, I don't know, we'll talk about, like Pearl Harbor. What's another historical epic we can do? They have to do 2 movies that are on like polar opposites in terms of demographics, and they have to come out the same week, and people have to have the same level of hype for them.
Well, James, here's a letter.
Yeah.
I was going to put this in letters, but I'll give it to you now.
Whoa.
This is from Chase. Hey, James and May. So, did you see the recent announcement that Saw X and the Paw Patrol movie are going to be coming out on the same day?
Oh, my God.
I've seen Saw Patrol deemed the next to Barbenheimer. This feels like another classic example of Hollywood not learning the correct lesson from something. Would love your thoughts.
Correct.
It absolutely is,
That's what's happening.
And I mean, look, that also seems like... So the thing about Barbenheimer
Did they say Saw Patrol? Was that what they said?
Saw Patrol, yeah.
Okay.
The thing about Barbenheimer is it's from what I can tell, it was largely built by social media and like the general public. And that's why it worked, I think.
Yes.
And it was also wild that, again, from what I understand, and maybe this isn't true, but it's a weird coincidence if it's not, it's that Warner Brothers, their relationship soured with Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
So they put Barbie up against Oppenheimer deliberately to see if they could sink Oppenheimer. But then it's had this weird What's the term?
Melding?
Symbiosis.
That's
symbiosis,
good.
where it all worked together.
Yeah.
And everybody went. Not everybody, but like enough people.
Everybody
went. I'm going to see. Isn't it? What a fun thing to see 2 different movies same weekend. They're so different. Let's make it an event.
And also, I was like this week. This is inconvenient to see 2 movies.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be going double bills of anything.
It's true.
I was like, this is a fucking hassle.
Yeah,
and also next week is clear.
Yeah.
But also, I'm glad these are 2 movies that. I mean, if one of these movies I just wouldn't have seen, we would have done a week of. If we had have heard one was terrible or whatever, we would have done one and not the other.
That's probably true.
I
mean, what I think may happen as well is that people are aware that this is inconvenient. Maybe they just saw one, and then next week they're gonna. They've heard the other one is also good, and they'll hopefully the head of steam will keep going, and people will
and lessons will not be learned.
No, well, exactly. That's the thing. Hollywood will attempt to replicate this, and it will not work. It'll be Morbius 2 and Morbius 3 back to back on the same weekend.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
What do I see first?
I don't know.
Morbius 3, obviously.
Yeah, Morbius 3,
and then don't see 2.
Yeah. Morbius 2, The Legend of Tyrese's Arm. Pew, pew. It's got lasers.
All right, what should we do, Mason?
We should do what we're reading.
Yeah?
What are we going to read?
Do that now.